I'm Susan Clare. I'm the director of Together Yes. We, along with Progress Norwood, sponsor the Sustainability Series during each act. That's a monthly presentation or documentary followed by discussion on any topic of sustainability, ranging from environment to society to economics, whatever we think is needed and where we can find good information to share with our neighbors in the spirit of community building in Norwood. The trails is one of the best ways to do that. I lose my envelope of contact strips every time we have a presentation. Therefore, this time, have not brought one, but I am passing around a spiral notebook. If you now do not get email announcements of when we have these events and would like to, just give me your name and email address. Just pass it around, and then I'll get it back near the end. We'll end up at the end back there or somewhere, and I'll get it back. And I will put you on the email list. If you already receive announcements or don't care to drive to Norwood too much, we welcome people from surrounding towns at all of our events, because we are all neighbors. We share a watershed, we share an ecosystem, and we walk across town lines without even being aware we've done it. So, welcome to everybody from Norwood, Walpole, Westwood, wherever you came to us from. And now I would like to introduce the director of Progress Norwood, Kate Sivington, who is over there.
Thanks. I'll be really quick. I just want to say that Progress Norwood, give you a little idea of who we are. We've been around for about 3 years. We're a member-led group. We have a few different focuses, mainly civic engagement. That falls, into local politics. We talk about the environment. We care about sustainability. We're focused on cultural competency. And one of the reasons that Susan's a Progress Norwood, that we collaborated on this series is because we really feel like sustainability goes beyond environment, right? So when you talk about community building and community relationships and how you work together on projects like this, or collaborating on making our environment sustainable, you do that through relationships. So we really feel like community has a lot of sustainability issues attached to it. So we're really happy to be here and to be helping out, and that as neighbors, like Susan said, we're in this room together and we can collectively care about something that impacts all of us. So thanks a lot. If you are interested in a newsletter from Progress Norwood, I would go on our Facebook page. We're getting a new website right now, but you can find us on Facebook and message us, and we have a quarterly newsletter that's really brief but has lots of helpful links and resources in it. So thanks a lot for considering that, and enjoy the night.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. How many people are from out of Norwood? That's great.
Thank you.
This is our first combined seminar together, and Glenn and I have been working together for a while, and our committee and his committee, and scoping out the trails in each town, and we see a lot of possibilities of each town having connections. And today it's Walpole, tomorrow could be Westwood, Sharon. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities and things that are going to be coming in the next year or this year. So, and that's our community garden there. Susan, you didn't talk about the community garden. And that is a sustainability thing for sure. We have 72 gardeners run by Susan. And now, without further ado, Glenn Moffitt from Walpole Trail.
He didn't mention it, but that was Big Bagel talking.
Good evening. Thank you for coming, and thank you to our sponsors, Norwood Trails, and Together Yes. I'm with the Walpole Trails Committee. My name's Glenn Maffey, and we're here tonight to tell you that you can wake up tomorrow and go on a short hike or a long hike to see wildlife and discover actual ruins of an industrial past. There are meandering rivers and fast-flowing waterfalls, an eagle or deer if you're lucky, and if you're unlucky, overgrown thorns and invasive poison ivy. You can do any of this on foot, on a mountain bike, with snowshoes and with a friend. You can do a hike with steep terrain and sweeping views, or one that's flat all the way. You can go for miles in the woods on well-marked trails and see no one and hear nothing but nature. And here's the key, and here's why we're here tonight. You can do this right here in Norwood, right next door in Walpole, and maybe you don't have to get into a car at all, and that's sustainability. Just walk out your front door and explore places like this. This is one of the more popular places we have in Walpole, Adams Farm. It's 365 acres of town-owned land. It's got 10 plus miles of trails. We purchased it in 1997 through a town override for about $8 million. And the result is we prevented 170 houses from being built and permanently opened it up to hikers like you and me. It's a great place to go visit. It's 1997, we got a 20-year debt payments, and 20 years has gone by. So we're not paying for this piece of property anymore, and we own it forever. You could also go to a place like this. This is a view in the springtime when it's a little more picturesque. You can view this from the boardwalk just off the town forest, Walpole Town Forest. Our town forest has 150 acres of trails and open space. This connects the town forest with Jarvis Farm, which I can talk about right here. This is Jarvis Farm. It's 25 acres of land that we purchased in 2014, I think it was, for $4.5 million. We're still making payments, but 20 years will come and go pretty quickly, and we'll own this piece of land forever. We also prevented Jarvis Farm from being developed. And we acquired this land for a slightly different reason than Adams Farm. Unlike Norwood, who's on MWRA water, we pump all our own water in Walpole. And so this is on the heels of some key wells. And so the Sewer and Water Commission actually passed the cost of this piece of property off to the ratepayers. And so the water bills have had to go up slightly, but we are protecting our water supply, which is part of our master plan. And Jarvis Farm is a key to doing that. So I briefly want to mention, I'm here obviously with the invite of Norwood Trails Committee. Vic Babel, who you've already heard from, Lee Leach over here. We have Joe Greeley and Glenn Maffey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Walpole, and then we're going to pass it off to Norwood, and we'll open it up to questions at the end. We're a 5-member committee, Walpole Trails Committee. We have, I did not mean to go forward there, but I have a couple members tonight. Is Virginia, can she stand up? Can you mind standing up real quick? Virginia is on the Walpole Trails Committee. Is Sandia here by any chance? And I know a couple of the other members couldn't make it. But Virginia and Sandia have been instrumental in organizing senior center hikes. We have a brand new senior center, which is on a rail trail and borders the town forest in Walpole. And it's kind of intimidating. You have a rail trail right behind the senior center, but if you're in your 70s or 80s, you might not know where it goes, and so you might just say, I'm staying away. And so we organize hikes to get them out there and build confidence. I mean, that's a lot of what we do, is we need to promote the trails. But if you don't know where you're going, and you're 20, you might not care, but if you're 80, you might not want to get lost in the woods. So we'll take you out in the woods. That's part of what we do. We have 40 plus miles of trails in Walpole. This map is kind of crude. This is sort of Norwood over here. This is Adams Farm, which I mentioned. And this dotted line is Adams Farm Trails, but over here is Medfield. And this is the Bay Circuit Trail, which I will talk a little bit more about. It cuts through Walpole. It's a 230-mile trail, but it cuts through Walpole for 8 miles. This green is the town forest. This blue is the Mine Brook area. Has more than just this one trail that goes through it. There are many trails back there. And we have maps available to you if you want to explore, and we can explain how to do it. It's on our website. And then up here is some interesting stuff. Well, Bird Park, I hope people know about. There's 3 miles of trails at Bird Park in East Walpole. And Hemlock Street up here. So Pinnacle has 20 acres, and the Neponset River, on the other side of the Neponset River, is the Indian Trail. And this is something we're going to revisit later in the presentation, because this is an opportunity to connect with your own Indian Park up off of Mylon Street. So we will come back to that. The Bay Circuit Trail, which I mentioned briefly, was founded in 1990. 8 miles of it is in Walpole. And it's one of the reasons why the Walpole Trails Committee was founded in 1998, because they wanted local stewards who could maintain and help promote it, but mostly to maintain it and to keep the trail markers up to date. So the Walpole Trails Committee was founded, and that was the beginning of our mission. But there was a lot more to what we do than that. Some of what we do, we map existing trails. We have the senior center hikes, which are an important way to reach that demographic. We have the first day hike, which this map was created for. It meets at Jarvis Farm, which I mentioned to you. And there are the red or the blue was a 3 mile hike, or a 2.5 mile hike. And obviously on January 1st, we stole the idea directly from the Blue Hills. Where I used to drive to Blue Hills on January 1st, whether there's a foot of snow on the ground or whether it was 10 degrees or not. That was an annual tradition for me and my family. And I realized that we could steal that idea and I didn't have to actually leave Walpole to do it. The first year we did it 2 years ago, well, what actually allowed us to do that was the boardwalk, which I'll get to in a minute. But the boardwalk took Jarvis Farm, which was completely isolated, and it connected it to the town forest. So it allowed us to really do a never-ending hike. If we wanted, as opposed to driving to Jarvis Farm, exploring the 25 acres, and then having to leave. So the boardwalk opened that up. We did the first day hike 2 years ago. It was 65 degrees, and over 300 people came. This year on January 1st, it wasn't quite so nice, but we had over 250. We have the Boy Scouts light a campfire. We had some sponsors this year, Free Hot Cocoa. And what it is you don't need to come and hike with 250 people on January 1st. You can, but you can come after everybody leaves and do it by yourself. The reason why we have the first day hike is, again, a confidence builder, is we want people who are intimidated by Jarvis Farm. To be honest, when you go there, it's tucked away in the corner how you enter the trail. We have a couple signs, but it's nice to have that guide who can walk you for 3 miles, and then you can just go there with your dog or with your kids or just on your own anytime you want. So we're just here to build confidence and let people know where the trails are, and the first day hike is a way to do that. I don't want to blow past the rail trail connection because that's something that's kind of a big deal for us. I can reference this map over here. I don't know if people can see it, but so this is the Norfolk Aggie. So this yellow line that I highlighted that cuts, this is Norfolk down here. This is the prison down here. This is Cedar Swamp. This is the old Colony rail bed that cuts through Walpole all the way up to Norwood. It's in the Ponset River, and that's your own Indian, I think, up there. So some of it's green. Green is actually a bad thing. Some of it, there's no yellow at all. So this is because we developed on top of the rail trail. So there is no rail trail other than there's an old railroad bed. It has the potential to someday be a rail trail. A lot of it's open. We just acquired, well, this green is actually good. We just acquired this land across from the Walpole prison. So this will be preserved. The Cedar Swamp there's no access here, unfortunately. And then we're just trying to connect the dots. And so the rail trail is a potential future project by the Housing Authority. We're trying to get permission from them to give us access, and that'll help extend it past the senior center. And the 1A Fields complex, which I can show you here. So I showed you the prison. This is the prison here. And this is a little clearing here. This is Route 1A. This is this clearing, if you drive by it today, this map is a couple months old, is now a big clearing. And this is Norfolk down here. So we are building, we just approved an $8 million athletic fields complex. I think it's $8 million ballpark, in Walpole. Yeah, no pun intended, right? So this is now completely cleared. This is 65 acres. About a third of it is going to be for the athletic complex. We got this from the state. It was excess land, I think they called it, and they gave it to us for a dime, for $25,000. They gave us 65 acres that has to be used for passive recreation, and that's what we're using it for. So the athletic fields and then trails. And so there's a network of established trails that aren't marked. They just have been there for so many years. With the old railroad bed runs through here, comes out to Windsor Street. And so we're going to take advantage of that. That's exciting. And there's 6 miles of rail trail that cuts through Walpole. And the reason why it's impeded is because we didn't take advantage of this law. This is Chapter 40, Section 54A. Sorry for the lingo there, but this is important because if we had known about this law, then the Secretary of Transportation would have not let any of those developments go right on top of train tracks, old railroad beds. Old railroad right-of-ways need to get permission from the Secretary of Transportation, and he's not just actually gonna give you permission, he's gonna require that there be pedestrian access, whether it's for people on foot or on bike, so that the rail trail is preserved. So knowing about this law going forward will help us from keeping that from happening again. But this Route 27 in Walpole, across from the old Walpole Woodworkers, we filled in a tunnel that was there, and they put a development up right on the old train track. So now, where there could have been a tunnel that got us under a busy road, there is not, and it's an impeded access. And so it's unfortunate in that scenario, but going forward, we just keep an eye on this. This is to our advantage. This is in favor of preservation. So we do have future projects. I mentioned the rail trail. I do want to talk briefly about the boardwalk, which I mentioned connects Jarvis Farm with the town forest. Over here, there's a bunch of pictures on that table of us actually constructing the boardwalk. We did it through a grant, partially. I think it was $14,000 for a state grant. Town money contributed, and all volunteers. That was just for the wood. All volunteers built this. We put on our waders and hiked through the muck. And we scooted in similar to the way you would build a dock. And we built this thing. It's about 200 feet, cuts across Spring Meadow Brook, and it's what allowed us to do the first day hike, and it's what allows you to have access to a whole bunch of the Bay Circuit Trail, the town forest, and beyond. So I encourage you to visit it. I can tell you how to get there. Check out our website. I'm going to pass it off to the Norwood Trails.
Go back one slide to that and talk about your future plans for that boardwalk. I think that's very
The platform?
Yeah, the platform.
I don't know if I can go back, but I can talk about it. I'll go back 3 now. Alright, so yeah, we do plan on. So one of the cool things about Jarvis Farm is it was an old summer camp, and it was, I used to go there when I was a kid. And then they were going to sell it to developers, and then we bought it, and now it's a summer camp for the Walpole Recreation Department. So this is it's a 10-minute walk, 8-minute walk to the farm, and we'd like to build a platform, just a viewing platform, to allow the young kids to come out and gives them a place to go, a nature walk. We still have money left over from when we built the boardwalk, and so we got the volunteers. I just got to come up with the time, I think. It's the main obstacle. So, you want to try me, guys?
Good evening, all. I'm loud and obnoxious, so I'm just going to put this in my back pocket. Nice. I'm Joe Greeley, the chairman. I'm lucky enough to be the chairman of the Norwood Trails Committee. We certainly wanted to thank again Susan Clare and the Progress Norwood folks and the Memorial Library for hosting us. This whole series, you won't be disappointed. Once a month there's an introduction to something that every one of these events you'll learn something from. There was an event last month about housing, which frankly 90% of us in the room learned something new at that event. So I do recommend that if you're not tied into that series, that you should definitely try to take advantage of it. And again, we appreciate the invitation. Likewise, we appreciate the chance to collaborate with the Walpole Trails Committee. They're much senior than we. We started the Norwood Trails Committee in 2018, so we're newbies. We're pretty much rookies at this. We definitely have learned a lot from Glenn and Gary and the rest of the committee. As opposed to having 250 or 300 people at your first day, which Lee and I and a couple of our Norwood members attended. We had our own first day hike, both last year and this year. We had about 45 folks join us on University.
But not at the same time.
Not at the same time. It wasn't a long walk between two times, right? So who are we and what do we do? What are we up to? Luckily, a lot of you have seen us at Norwood Day. We have had a booth for the last 2 years at Norwood Day, and we're hoping to be right back again and to try to be able to offer more knowledge, more research, more awareness. But more importantly, we welcome the chance for feedback, because y'all know the reason we started the Norwood Trails Committee was because, and we'll get to the town-wide map in a minute. But the reason we started the Trails Committee was, frankly, two or three of us, we did the same thing. Like, we would always say, okay, it's a beautiful Saturday, or it's 2 feet of snow, whatever. I want to go for a walk in the woods, so let me first get in my car and leave town, right? And that's the case going to Blue Hills, or for me going to Blue Hills. Lee is a little more exciting, and he goes to the Appalachian Trail when he wants to take a walk. But that was the impetus, and no matter who we asked in town, nobody seemed to know where all the trails were. Everybody knew bits and pieces. Jerry Miller, for instance, was great at saying, well, when I was 7, I used to go here, right? But then the stories changed when he turned 18, and because he went for a different reason. But it was only that word of mouth that we ended up with a list of over 20, I think we're up to 23 or 24, either trails or future trails. And we appreciate everybody's patience, because it has been, we're really excited to run first, but we need to walk first. And we need to focus on the basics, and we need to do things that we'll talk about to try to make those existing trails more accessible and more enjoyable for the community. We've gone through a little bit of an evolution since 2018. Right now, and we're lucky enough to be an advisory committee advising the town general manager, Tony Mazzucco. Tony kind of took us under his wing, and he said, here's what I want you to do, here's what I want you to accomplish. Last year at the Norwood Annual Town Meeting, we gave a presentation and update. We have provided Tony with a 6-month update, and likewise we'll be back in May at the annual town meeting to give another update. We're an authorized committee of the town, so we do have a mission. We'll get to that in a second, but all of our meetings are open, they're all posted. We comply with the Mass Open Meeting Law. But most importantly, we have a whole gaggle of empty seats at the back of the room, or the front of the room, I should say. So please feel free to join us. Group started 2018. Right now, it seems like every meeting we have to take the white out. We have to change that number because it's truly a fluid committee. Every meeting is different. We have people, the list would kind of, there it is. Okay. So as of 6:55 tonight, this is our list of members. This is an important part of the slide, and likewise the bottom right corner where it says insert your name here. We would love to have your input either formally by attending our meetings or send us an email. We do have an email, we'll get to that in a second. The town has been great, again, under the auspices of Tony, and we've had great resources, great support from Paul Halkiotis and the IT department. The planning department has been great. The Conservation Commission has been great, likewise. We do have a website. It's if you just go on the town, norwoodma.gov, and then just scroll down, we're under one of the committees, the Trails Committee. We've got a lot of good stuff, as they say. But this is a list as of this moment in time of our members. We've had a couple of people that have moved out of town, but they were part of our founding group, I guess. So at this point, I will rattle off these names, and I just ask a number of us are here. Just ask you all if you could stand up and it's important, as Glenn did with our Walpole neighbors. It not only is it important to acknowledge everybody's contribution in this area, but you should, if nothing else, if you see somebody down the street or hopefully preferably on a trail, but if you see them on a trail or in the street, just say, I had a thought and I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you from Walpole's standpoint. Thank you. But this is our way of outreach, is by having members that are excited, active, visible, etc. So John Apria, I'm just going to rattle through this. John's in the back. Craig Austin, Vic Babel, Sue Violet, some guy, Joe Greeley, Marguerite Krupp, Lee Leach, Ellie McConaughey, Jerry Miller, Masha Mata, Ernie Pachakowski, Brian Palmatier, Fran Rush. Fran is in Arizona.
Sandia, I'm sorry to call you up, but you came in late. You want to stand up real quick? We have one more of our member here, Sandia.
And all these names in both Walpole and Norwood, all the names, and there's contact information, but all the names are on each of the town's Trails Committee webpage. So, okay. And see that special note to that blank line at the bottom there. Margaret?
It's important for people to know we meet is generally the second and fourth Tuesdays at the town hall.
So now we don't have to do the last slide. Thank you.
You paid me well.
Good reminder.
Thank you. It is a great reminder. So our mission, everybody needs a purpose in life, and taking a walk in the woods and getting fresh air, that's a good mission, but we wanted to be a little more formal because we are an advisory committee to the town hall, essentially, but more importantly, we work for you all. Like, that's the way we see our mission. There are so many people just at Norwood Day at our booth, so many people look at the map that we'll show you in a second. Actually, can you just flip that, if you don't mind? So many people look at our map, and it's difficult. It is an eye test, but it's available. All of our maps are available online. I will say that. But that's where we are right now. In the bottom right corner, there's a list of 24 or 25 locations. They're not all usable. We haven't quite worked out the easement, and some of them, in order to get to there's a little bit of private property that we need to respect. So we're just kind of working out the details. But we would like to, I'll say this with all respect to Walpole, we would like to be Walpole in that respect. Walpole they're much more advanced from a connecting the dots standpoint. But it's pretty easy to tell, and when you get closer to the map, you'll be able to see that without a lot of imagination, you could just pretty much draw a circle around the outer rim of Norwood. And it's all open space, and it's all land. It's not all usable as is, but we're hoping that can be our own emerald necklace, if you will. So the 3 E's we've got at the bottom here in our mission statement, we want to educate the community on the availability of multi-use trails, locations, and conditions. One of the things as far as sustainability that we do, every time we go out on a trail walk, we always bring everybody's got a phone these days, but we also bring a trail report. It's basically a trip report. But every time we go, we report back on trail conditions and fallen trees and I don't know, car blocking, whatever, access, or either if there's an issue or if there's an idea we've had when we've gone on the walk, whether it relates to accessibility. And it would be great, and it would improve the ADA access if, fill in the blank, we could build a trailhead that's accessible and parking's good. So there's definitely an aspect of educating the community. And to be honest with you, we're educated every time we go out ourselves. Exploring partnerships with organizations and businesses in the Norwood area and beyond. I think we've done a great job. Marguerite especially has been the scribe of all the relationships that we've set up so far. It's the Neponset River Watershed Association, that's Friends of the Blue Hills, Walpole Trails, been in touch with the Westwood Conservation Agent a number of times, and they would love to duplicate what we've done. So they want to be Norwood. Just as we're learning from Walpole, they want to learn what we've accomplished. We've done a great job as far as businesses. We didn't have a sponsor yet on the First Day Hike, but we want to try to foster a little bit more of that. We are, as an advisory committee, we're not a nonprofit. So from the standpoint of people wanting to give donations, either 20 square miles of land would be great. But we still have a little bit of an issue there as far as accepting gifts, and they would have to, gifts as in donations, but they would have to come in through the town, but we figured out a way to do that. And frankly, a lot of what we do, just as with the Jarvis Farm boardwalk, a lot of what we could use donations for is materials, and then we're hoping that we can, through volunteerism, make it happen. So that's exploring these partnerships, and the sky's the limit. We do have a speaker coming in March to one of our meetings who's he's a bird enthusiast, and he's going to try to give us some ideas on setting up a bird observation station, at least 1 or 2 parts of town. Any people who live around the Willet, you've seen the bald eagle floating around, right? A number of people have reported that. But that's the kind of thing that we want people to get out, we wanted people to enjoy, we wanted people to be able to touch a tree, get in touch with Mother Nature. There is such a thing, and you'll see, again, referring back to the map, we're not big, we're Norway, we're landlocked, but we like to think that within 5 minutes you could be on one of these trails or open space areas. And I'm reading a book, Ellie was had to leave, but Ellie and I are sharing a book, I forget the name, I think it's called The Nature Fix. But one of the things they stress is the phrase nearby nature. And you could go to the Monadnock area, you could go to the White Mountains or the Green Mountains, or you can stay in Walpole, you can stay in Norwood, and that's what they refer to as nearby nature. You don't have to go, you don't have to get in the car. Mom Nature is ready, willing, and able, and she's right around the corner. Encouraging community groups and individuals to enjoy the natural beauty of Norwood, like I said. Right? We just want people to get that, whether it's scouts, groups, PTAs. We've tried to reach out to any number of those groups. So real briefly, I'll go down this list. This is a little bit, you'll see it more so on the map, but under the heading of research, explore, and map the trails of Norwood, Craig and Fran, neither of whom are here, but two of our members. I will invite you all, we did have 75 or 80 of these copies, but we hate making paper copies. So all of these, we do have 5 site locations, all of which are available online. You can download them as a PDF. We think they're really great, and if Fran and Craig were here, I'd thank them again. It's a double-sided. The first side, this one happens to be Shattuck Park. So we've got Shattuck Park, Hennessy, Ellis Pond, Endine, and Germany Brook. Thank you. That was a quiz. I failed. But both sides, you get a map on one side. The map is they've done a great job of downloading it. Fran takes a Garmin with her when she walks, and she maps as she walks. And then Craig does the rest of it, and they collaborate on the front page, which is photos of the area, a little bit of detail as far as parking is concerned. Highly recommended, preferably download. So we got 5 locations so far, and the town-wide map is also on the webpage. That is likewise PDF downloadable. For priority, our priority right now, a number of us went over to Adams Farm the other day. We got a personal tour from Roy Nopel, who's a member of the Friends of the Adams Farm. But Adams Farm, just as Walpole has done, they've done a great job of making the paths more walkable and usable, as in signage and trail numbering sequences at intersections, foot bridges and more extensive bridges. So for us, the next couple of months, we're going to try to focus on signage, especially at the Endine is kind of our model citizen, and that's where we're trying to focus a lot of our attention on. The present trails, I just rattled off those 5. Shattuck, Ellis, Germany Brook, for those of you who don't know, runs from Father Max to the Willett School. Right, it goes behind the land formerly known as the landfill. Now we're trying to get it to be called Mount Norwood. That hasn't quite taken on the momentum that I wanted it to. But, so that's when we say Germany Brook, it's that whole stretch. In that area, Lee's pointing to the basically the northwest corner, the Northwest Passage, and that's where. On the other side of the border, heaven forbid we cross borders, but now we're learning to, thank you. But on the other side of that brook is Westwood, and likewise, Westwood that's part of their conservation area, and they have literally acres in that, like just adjacent abutting property. So what ultimately, just as we're talking about, we will talk about efforts going forward with Walpole. Likewise, we had a grand scheme to connect the dots across that border as well. So future trails, real briefly, back in the fall, the town took a donation from the East Walpole Cemetery Association on Pleasant Street. People know where that is. Part of the property is in East Walpole, but the majority of it's in the majority of the land that we've taken possession of, acquired it by gift. Thank you. The majority of it is not cemetery, but it's open space and passive recreation area. It's not destined to be cemetery land. So it's basically fertile, literally fertile ground for trails. So we'll get to that in a second. When we say Bird Memorial Cemetery, the town has actually officially renamed the property from East Walpole Cemetery to the Bird, named after the Bird family, some of whom are interred at that property. The Saint Street lot, the town just purchased the Saint Street lot from DCD Realty, and everybody who was awake in the last 2 years knew that there was a battle going on, right? So luckily the town and luckily hundreds of people gathered and said this can't happen, and we can't afford to lose this piece of property for the purpose of parking cars on it and cutting down all the trees. So luckily the town, through community preservation, John Prier and a number of folks here are on the community preservation committee as well. So their presentation was made. Norwood taxpayers voted to use community preservation money, about $340,000 to purchase the Saint Street lot, some of which is money dedicated or be directed as trails development. So that's on our horizon as well. Peswick, we do have a map. Peswick is one of these little obscure, I think that might have been like number 22 that I was told about. Peswick is off Sumner Street, almost on the Sharon border. And Peswick is a named conservation land. It's dedicated to an individual. I think it's Paul Peswick? Billy, I'm sorry. But that property, it's on the Trap Hole Brook. Most of our properties are water abutters, right? There's a brook that, you name it, if there's a brook, we like it, we're on top of it. We are trying to interact just as Walpole does. We are trying to buddy up with the brooks, if you will, which is where the whole Germany Brook thing came from. Peswick, so we can talk a little bit more about Peswick. University Ave / skating club. So I'm sure some of you beyond just me have lost golf balls on the Lost Brook Golf Course over the years. It was a small 9-hole golf course on University Ave. They had to close up shop. The Boston Skating Club purchased the land, and anybody who's driven down University Ave can see the future, if you will, the future of American skating, to be honest with you. Not hockey, but skating. It's figure skating and such. There will also be a rink for ice hockey, but it's predominantly skating focused. So those folks, that property, and I don't think we have a map, but we do have the Google map, the GMAP hub. But there's essentially 6 to 7 miles if you think of where University Ave is. There's Granger on the Westwood Canton side, basically the northeast end of University Ave. If it's about a 7-mile walk mostly through the woods to get from there to UPS and Route 1. It's almost all town owned. That's what I've dubbed, and I've tried to reinforce this as the Norwood Town Forest. But a good portion of that is purely forest area. There's no trails. That was actually part of the property as conservation land, and that's where we went on New Year's Day. The Boston Skating Club has allowed us an easement basically to create a walking trail, because they're focused on the building and the street end of the property, but they've already allowed the back end of their property to go back to Mother Nature. It is private property, but as soon as possible, as soon as you have access to it, I would certainly invite people to go see it. But we've got great hopes for that land. And then the town loop, as I said, the emerald necklace around the town. I might not be alive when it happens, but that's the long-term goal. We will. So that's the aforementioned map. You can see, the red denotes down here. The red denotes conservation land, and the blue is town-owned land. A lot of the town, it's all us. Forget about what the blue and green and red and whatever. It's all us. It's all Norwood. But what we need to do is, just as Norwood and Walpole Trails communities are learning to speak the same language, we're contacting the light department, for instance, which has a number of huge potential right around this little dogleg here, this is Peswick Park that I mentioned, this conservation land. But Peswick Park connects up with this light department easement, right? So you got probably a mile and a half's worth of activity there. You got land over here that the town owns. Germany Brook Germany Brook and the landfill in Father Max. So in that mile and a half roughly stretch, you've got school property, light department property, recreation department property, and DPW property and town property, right? The key word in there is Norwood, right? But we just have to learn to collaborate and talk to each other. Yep, yep. So that map in the bottom, this is definitely an eye test. It's a little bit bigger there, but when, not if, but when you download this, you'll see the list. But we live and we thrive on feedback. So without further ado, I think Lee's up next.
So very quickly, this is an Andean property down behind the middle school. Each year for the last, our first year in 2018 and also last year, we hope to do this every year. Right before Halloween, we had a community walk, and it basically is a self-walk, but within a couple hours of that, on that particular Sunday, we'll announce it going forward, sometime probably in the summer, I would guess. But that utilizes, like Joe was saying, our system at Andean, which is the best developed property to offer you if you haven't been out on any trails in Norwood, to go there initially. It's very straightforward. The loops aren't that long, and we just indicated them by different colors. We're, like Joe said, we're in the process of trying to upgrade this in terms of signage and trail intersection markers. So that is one of your maps. That map doesn't indicate any of that aspect of it, so we will update the map, have a new version when we get all that set. So that's one of the activities we're looking at, that we're actively working on right now. So.
And this area in the red, you can see, if you can read these at the bottom, the red loop, it's a whopping 0.6 miles, right? So
none of these trails are classified as difficult.
There's no heavy lifting. If you can find the ending, either the Coakley School, the good thing here, this is Haas Pools right here, so if people are familiar with that. There's a probably 30 to 40 car parking area at the top. This end is up here, the Little League fields, but this whole area is parking availability. It's on the 34E bus line. Okay. So you know, certainly if you had even if a half a day, you know, this point, you got 0.6, 0.45, 4.5, and 0.5. It's right. It's a lunch hour. It's when the weather turns better and the days get longer. This is the 4:45 to 5:30 walk, right? A lot of ton of people take dogs out here, preferably on leash. This town requires leash. One of the challenges, the yellow. We are actually one of the other things we're working on in the spring. Susan provided us with one contact, but I have another friend who is mobility impaired. My friend, so they both have a different status, a different situation. But my friend is my friend Jerry, who lives in town. He's in a wheelchair, but he and I got together. He has wholeheartedly offered to come up on the yellow trail, at all the trails, because he's crazy. But that's beside the point. Don't tell him I said that. But especially on the yellow trail where it's all flat, it's circled. The two loops there, they're not looped. They're not connected, but they will be. But those are the two pools at the Hawes Pond area. So we want to turn that. We want to focus on that as our ADA accessible, mobility impaired go-to spot. Right? Parking, access, flat, great. But not to limit it, but to make that available.
Here.
The other, it's not all good news because there are definitely challenges, just as Glenn said about running into obstacles and things like that. One opportunity, I'll call it that, one opportunity for us, especially at Indy, is up in This is Windsor Gardens up here, formerly known as Windsor, what is it, the Commons? Common. Thank you. There, somewhere up here is, I think it's right there is the train station, those of you who are commuters.
Yes.
But the train, it used to be a connection from both sides of the tracks. There is a crossing there, but the crossing has been blocked, like formally blocked. So there is no crossing there anymore. When I say crossing, I mean pedestrian crossing to get from one side, from the basically the southwest side to the northeast side and northwest side to be able to gain access to the train. So but if we could somehow open that up, it would allow access to literally hundreds of folks who live not only in the Commons, but also everybody on that Garden Parkway and that end. But it would also, it would open up the Indian. Because right now, if somebody lives in that unit right there, they can see the crossing, they can see the trees swaying in the background, but in order to get from A to B, they have to get in their car or go on like a probably 2 to 2.5 mile drive to get to there, right? So it's an opportunity, and we respect the train crossing and the need to have it blocked, but there's a happy medium in there somewhere. There is a tunnel, but we haven't swum the tunnel yet. We will work on that. What else? So that's the Indian.
And there is another trail that goes to the community garden also.
Yep, so good point. This down here, this is the Little League field here. This meadow here is the lower end, if you will, of the community garden in the orchard. And back a year ago, apologies to the garden folk, but that was a destination, but not part of our walk with the Progress Norwood group. But since that time, we've extended it through the help of the DPW and really the neighbors. We've extended this red loop, and now it's the white. We have another white loop that takes us from that intersection there all the way down here up to the hill at the orchard and the public gardens. Yeah. So there's now 5 there. We will get to the Endine in this when we talk about futures. You guys are on.
So Joe, I asked Joe, how much time do you need? And he said, 5-10 minutes.
From one talker to another.
Oh my God.
No pressure now, though.
Now I can't say half of it. I'm like the Lewis. I don't know whether I'm Lewis or Clark, but if you see me in your backyard, if you have any woods close to you, it's probably me. Don't call the police. Because I love going exploring in any place in Norwood. And Lee and I went last week, and we got separated, and we were totally lost. And this is off University Ave, and we were probably 200 yards from each other. I'm yelling, he's yelling. And we couldn't hear each other, so we actually called each other.
I'm sure your phone is charged.
Yeah, and you should never go alone. And another thing, when I was exploring down University Ave in January, I get home, I was getting out of the car, a tick was coming up I'm saying January? And then another time there, and I was alone, and I quickly got a stick, I saw what I thought was a deer going by, a small deer, a doe. And it turns out I read the local crime report, and a guy was trapped in there and the police couldn't get to him because of this big, huge dog that's in the woods, evidently. So you gotta be careful. And there's also a homeless person living there somewhere. So, what was I supposed to be talking about?
You only got 10 minutes.
Does anybody have a calendar to time this?
The good stuff. Yeah. So anyway, so we'll do that the next slide on the, this is the land that was recently acquired down here, and we're hoping to be able to almost connect it, and I don't know how you get here. Okay. I don't know how you possibly get from here to here, but I'll explore that one. And so I may get arrested on that one. But you can walk down here by Ernie's little shack there, and go down here, and this is the Peswick one. And I'll tell you, there's power lines here. It's wide open, and in the spring I think we're going to have to put a little something there to cross. There's a little stream there. But you can go all the way up here, all the way up here, right almost to Dean Street. It's the canoe launch there, and that's a great walk. And you'll see the Norwood Electric Company right here, the big facility. And then, you know, I've been going, of course, exploring over here. And, I mean, there's beer cans there, so someone's been there. And, but it's very interesting. I mean, you can really get lost in here. A lot of it's wetlands, so some of the stuff may be seasonal. But I'm so excited about the future of the trails in Norwood. We got a base now, so we're going to be really starting to go now. And this is another one, unknown one. So here's the 95. So you go in the development there. I forget the name of this.
Norton Drive.
Which one?
Norton Drive.
Norton. So you go in Norton Drive.
Norton.
And then you go here, you go right to the end of,
Ledgeview.
yeah. And if you go here, at the end there, you can park on the street there. And there's a trail, a sewer, and most of the trails that I'm finding on the peripheral, Norwood was smart enough to go forward and put all these sewer lines in years, you know, in the 30s. And this is another trail that goes on, and the reason they can't join right now is because the Neponset River. But you can go all the way up, almost to Dean Street. Now it's good to here. It's a very good trail here, and then you're kind of bushwhacking in here, and Lee and I did this one, and that could be a great potential too. And then this one, this is the best one because you can park your car at Castle Island, park another one here, and then walk down there, and you have to kind of cut through the apartment complex to reconnect, and then this takes you. And you'll see the smokestack from Frank's right there. And that comes out right there. So there are some great, and these are walkable now, basically. But these are some of the future things. And the University Ave has me all excited because I've been in there for days at a time. Lee and I, we've seen everything in there. And
Wants more time.
yeah. Oh, I guess they want me to say this. That wasn't in the schedule.
More time.
So Earth Day cleanup and booth. Again, the Earth Day cleanup is going to be our 3rd year now that we're doing it. We pick a park and we hope we have a lot of volunteers. And I personally had Hennessy Field, and I was just there recently, and there wasn't that much trash, but when we did it last year, there was so much. So I think if you clean them up, they respect it a little bit more. And, you know, so we're looking forward to that.
This year that'll be on April 26th, I believe. Is that right? It's the Sunday.
And then we have the Norwood Day booth, and that's like amazing because they see all the people you've seen all the time and all that. But there's so many people that sign up. When we have usually 4 or 5 of us in the booth, we can't keep up with the crowds. It's a lot of, you know, and look at here, we have 75 people here, probably 1,000 wanted to come in, but we have a limit to 75. And so Norwood Day, which is September 12th? Yeah. Make sure you stop by, and it's a great day anyway. And community walk, we did that in the fall. I'm sure we're going to do it again. And that's nice. It's getting the community together and taking a walk through our most established park, Indian Park. And then New Year's Day, I mean, they had 300, we had 30, big deal. They have 18 years on us. And they got a lot of land, we have nothing. Well, we're finding the lot. And so, and we did actually, New Year's Day walk was it was in University Ave, so it was pretty strenuous because there's no trails there. So we were kind of bushwhacking, and we had, well, actually about 40, 45 people there. It was a great day. And, you know, we're going to build on that number every year. And of course, we're saying the Saint Street development down South Norwood, town bought it, and we just heard approval of surveying it, so there's gonna hopefully be a platform on the river, the Ponset River there, viewing platform, and a trail connecting to the backside of the Pollock School. University Ave, you know, I mean, for them, they put this, I don't know if you've been down there lately, but there's a huge skating club building down there, and that's gonna put Norwood on the map, because there's only 3 facilities like this in the country for the Olympics, and you'll be hearing a lot about that. But they have their building on the front part, and so they don't need the back part. So they've approached us to do something with that, because, you know, a parent comes in, the kid gets 3 hours of skating, instead of sitting there, they can at least take a walk. And so they like that whole thing. And landfill solar panels, I mean, if you've ever been up to the landfill, that's great. And we're gonna try to schedule a walk, a moonrise walk, full moon walk, in another, month or 2, Joe?
First weekend in March.
First weekend in March. So we'll keep you posted on that. But that's you know, you can see, you know, Gillette Stadium from there. It's a great view. You wouldn't think it in Norwood. Joe.
So pretty much everything we've said for the last hour, and I'm guilty of taking up most of that hour, but this whole thing, it's open space, it's taking care of Mother Nature, it's being stewards. That we do see that as one of our biggest purposes, is to foster, to make sure that we're being good stewards to the land. Some of the maps that you'll see are
Whoops.
So a lot of the maps of the proposed trails, a lot of that property, as I mentioned before, it's private. Some of it's private property. To get from Peswick to Dean Street, and that map that Victor showed, there are easements that have been granted to the town, but we just need to be good neighbors and formalize those that access. And we do, as I mentioned before, whenever we go somewhere, trail maintenance and trail reports. One of the things that we did in the November, 8 to 10 of us, in conjunction with the Norwood Conservation Commission, we did a cleanup of Ellis Pond, the Ellis Pond area. So one of the things we want to try to get more on a regular basis are volunteer maintenance days, work parties they call them. We've done a number of them at Blue Hills and Adams Farm. Being a voice at various events, meetings, and public hearings. We did attend, Vic mentioned the solar panel presentation at the top of the landfill. We were there, we got a commitment from the vendor and from the town that not only would they allow trail access across the top of the landfill, just to continue that Germany Brook walk, but also that they would, part of the land is recreation managed by the rec department, and they don't intend to put solar panels on that portion. But the group did commit to putting up an observation deck, maybe like a picnic table or some kind of community resource at the top of the landfill. Anybody that's been up there, that's fully accessible. We will caution you, Vic mentioned coyotes and things like that, and it is, when you're in Mother Nature was there first, right? So be cautious, be careful, don't go alone, follow all the right rules, and but you will be rewarded at the top of the landfill. It's a beautiful spot at sunset, sunrise, sunset. How's that sound good? But basically, it's a great spot. You can see the now empty Gillette Stadium. Leave no trace is also important for us. Whenever we go on to one of the trails, everybody brings preferably not a plastic bag, but a bag, and we're always picking up trash and just trying to leave it in a better place. That whole concept of leave no trace, I stole that from the Boy Scouts, but that's a motto that we always follow. Basically just sustainability is leave it in a better condition than you found it. working together. So I think you guys are working together on this working together section.
Yeah.
So obviously, the obvious intersection between Walpole and Norwood is the town line area around Violet Street, East Walpole as well. But I think we want to concentrate on, like Glenn was talking about, the Indian Trail and East Walpole, and then Indian Complex that we have already seen that's very well developed. And this represents that street. Now, it was sort of, we wouldn't walk the street up there. We'd probably stay back in the woods and then come out closer to where it comes into the East Walpole side.
The Indian Trail, the Indian Trail system is over here, and one of their trails is parallel to the railroad track. It ends right here. And
so with a small part of just walking on Mallard Street,
Right
you can
there.
then access farther down the Walpole side of it.
you actually can get through here again. But now I have to explore here to see if I can follow the railroad tracks
So there's
behind
a
where the
few ways to
property
do it,
is.
right? So
Cut
you
through the
can,
Mile fields though. That's soccer field.
Well, that's
Soccer
a
field.
you can cut through the soccer field.
Yeah,
sure.
but you could also
Around
not go on a trail.
So there's a few ways to do it, and we're not sure about fences and
Yeah,
some
we
of the
don't know
structures
right
up here.
here, and that, I'll be out there soon enough.
And
So don't call the police on me.
And then the other way is, of course, Mylard Street, which don't
Yeah.
be afraid to go. The sidewalks
There
the
is a
whole
sidewalk.
way, and don't let a sidewalk get in the way of you connecting a Norwood and a Walpole Trail. And the third way is, and this is technically behind all these Indian mansion kind of houses, Indian houses.
The old bird estate.
It's a sewer easement back there, and so it's all contiguous. It's all connected. I don't know that we have legal access. It's private property with a sewer easement, and so I walked it, and it's certainly it
He's the
connects.
plaque of Walpole.
Go ahead.
You connect from Dog Rock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from Dog Rock connects.
Dog Rock.
So this is the Indian tree.
Well, Dog Rock would be right
The
there.
pond right there
You
is.
take it up there and go across?
Yeah. So from Dog Rock, you follow that trail all the way, follow the pond, you circle around, you end up with this bottom red
You know,
pieces.
and another one, also, if you're doing this trail, it's a great trail, by the way.
Well, make it clear, I guess, for some folks who are from obviously Norwood who don't realize that the Indian Trail follows Bird Pond.
Yeah,
So we're just trying to get you onto the Indian Trail.
yeah. And
Once
the
you get
trail goes from here to here, and then it goes all the way around on Clinton Ave with its Frog Rock.
Yep.
And then you go up the street a little bit, and you come up on this side, and there's an abandoned railroad track there. And then you go right here, and there's right
Behind
there
the
to
houses.
the Hoagie Bear
Yeah,
Factory.
you can cut right
and
along
Walpole.
Bird Pond.
Yeah,
So-
and
so
this is
we-
on Hollingsworth and Bose. And these are some of the scenes.
This holds up Clinton Pond.
Yeah.
So Dog Rock would be up in the corner there, and
Yeah.
Indian Trail is
And
off
it's
to the right.
beautiful there. So, this is another one that we kind of just discovered, Glenn and I.
Yes.
And so, right here is the Hoagie Bear plant there, and you see that little pond there as you're coming out of Norwood, on your right is Washington Street. So you can park, here, and then you can go here, and then we found a tunnel that goes under the road here. And then there's an old abandoned railroad track here. It's kind of difficult getting up here.
It's 45-degree angle.
Yeah. Glenn and I did it in about 10-degree weather.
It was 10 degrees and
It
he
was
tried to do it by
40
himself.
mile-an-hour winds. But, so we can walk this abandoned railroad track. I don't know legally, but we did. And this goes right up to Birds. By the way, we also went in this area here. In this area here, which was quite nice. And there's a bridge across the Neponset River here. It probably is on private land, but we just explored it. And there's a rail spur going here also.
So when I mentioned, just to interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
The Walpole Rentham line, this is from Norfolk to the prison, Walpole Prison, this is the end of that line. It ended in Norwood. And it became a freight line after that. But that's what I referenced as far as cutting across the town of Walpole. It brings you all the way here.
And then we found, this is an empty lot here, we haven't figured out who owns it. And you come right to Pleasant Street here by that, what was it?
It'd be the Burnham Memorial.
Yeah,
After the cemetery.
and here's a new cemetery that we acquired. And then you can continue on and, you know, you're just bushwhacking in here, but we hope to be able to continue on here and then you go from there, you know, to the Peswick. And you can walk for miles. And this is the tunnel underneath Washington Street. I never knew it existed. I guess it was an old railroad tunnel.
This is another example of, they considered when they built the Riverwalk condominiums, it came up for discussion during the Walpole Conservation Commission, and I was talking to Mr. Getz, Al Getz, who's your conservation agent in Norwood and serves on Walpole's Conservation Commission. He's an appointed member there. And he told me that I came up, they were gonna fill it in, and he said, don't fill it in because someday you might have a use for it. And Washington Street is right above it. So you have the option of crossing a busy street or going under a busy street. And it gives us an opportunity someday to connect.
Joe?
Henri.
Oh, we've already said it, yeah. But we're excited. I mean, you know, when we talk to Glenn and his crew, they have so many trails and we got a lot of work to do. But we're only year 2 now, you know, and we're starting to make good progress now. So I'm excited. And, you know, hopefully in another 5 years, I think we'll have a lot more trails coming. Is that a quote? Coming to fruition. And then we'll be able to connect with Walpole, Westwood. I mean, even by Peswick, Sharon's right there, there's conservation land there. And then by University Ave, there's Canton, and they have a series of trails there. So there's so many opportunities. All we need is time and money, and hopefully we'll get volunteers. Yeah. So
So ahead of us, it's not just a walk in the park or a walk in the woods. It's, a lot of this is, you know, like these brochures, for instance. This is probably the 4th or 5th version of these, but they are developed enough that we're happy to share them. But every one of these instances and every one of our walks with Progress Norwood has been a learning experience. You know, we're gaining momentum, we're gaining interest. I heard the word volunteer out here, but you know, but those are the kind of things that we need. We're happy to do it. It's fun. Vic gets lost, and he rings up phone charges by calling Levy all the time. But you know, the ultimate goal is to build connections. It's to try to learn from each other, collaborate. You know, the border, we won't follow. We did find that when we crossed the border into Walpole, we didn't fall off the cliff. Most of us didn't fall off the cliff, right?
I had a little problem.
But it is, you know, back 300 years, 500 years ago, this whole area was all connected, and you know, this is all the Native Americans. Basically, we're not doing anything new. We're walking on a lot of the same trails that the Native Americans created, and they walked on. Anybody's been to Signal Hill in just over the border in Canton, Canton. You know, that's a perfect spot. We do hope to connect to that and also to the old Canton Airport on the Canton side of 95. But Signal Hill is a perfect place where, if you could just envision hundreds of years ago, you know, Native Americans stood there and they signaled each other, and that's why, frankly, that's why it's called Signal Hill.
So I have a question. Why are connections important to other towns? We've talked a lot about that, and you might be wondering, why is it important? And this is what you're presenting to you here tonight. Why are connections?
More money.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. But if you all, I was going to play this game, but frankly, it's kind of quirky. But if you just look to each other, look to the person beside you who you didn't come with, and if you don't know them, you know, you just turn to them and say, "What's your name? What's your favorite color? Why are you here?" And that whole interaction and collaboration is really what it's all about. we are two towns, in this instance, are, Walpole Trails and Norwood. A lot of people who now live in Walpole actually came from Norwood. I'm from Rosendale, so I came in to an empty house that had been vacated. But we all come from somewhere else, and we're all going somewhere else. I went to an exhibit this week, and part of the exhibit was, this is where we've been, this is where we are, and this is where we intend to go. So I think that whole connection, it's important to have relationships, and it's important to learn from each other. It's important to give and take. I like to think that the Walpole Trails group has learned things from us. They have a Facebook page, and we are determined to have a Facebook page, almost as good as theirs.
We really like your maps.
Okay.
We're determined to have the same kind of maps.
And I like your shoes. Right? But that's the kind of thing. It's why is it important? Because we're all one big happy family. The whole sustainability. Let's blame Susan Clare for this. The whole sustainability issue is we can't just put a landfill on the border with Westwood, cart our trash up to there, and hope the wind blows in the opposite direction, right? But if you think of where landfills, like the Wellesley, I forget if it's Needham Stump is on Wellesley's border or the other way around, whatever. Right. So that whole thing about being good neighbors or being bad neighbors, that's part of what we want to accomplish is, being a good neighbor. It doesn't matter what your zip code is. There is good stuff here.
We can get a lot more accomplished.
Absolutely, yeah. Like Lee volunteered. I think you were on some of the Walpole efforts. We've all helped the Friends of Blue Hills, and we've had the chairman of the Friends of Blue Hills come to one or two of our meetings, and that's the kind of thing it's all one big happy family here, right? And we're all we hope. Yes, it is. But we're all in this soup together. So it's not, money would be good.
But there is and that's one of them, but it is nice to, I never knew you 2 months ago. And now I'm saying, oh, God, he wants to.
These guys are on a first name basis.
I just don't want Vic out of 10-degree weather hiking up 45-degree slopes. Falls down and no one's gonna find him.
He's afraid it's gonna roll down.
The other thing about these trails in both towns, and Glenn mentioned it, but it's not just a 9-month, the sun's out, let me go, in the good weather. One of the reasons why I personally knew where a lot of these trails were, was because 12 months a year I'd be out on my snowshoes, cross-country skis, hiking boots, you name it, and just trying to, mentally connect the dots. I had no idea what was on the other side of the highway, right? Jerry, we've always heard the other side of the highway, which is across Route 1, and you're going to fall off a cliff if you go over it. But now half of our trails are, on either side. You can actually cross Route 1, right? And that's the whole thing about good weather, bad weather. Be smart about it. Vic's story about ticks, right? You have to be vigilant, and especially if you're out there with the kids or the dog. Likewise, more so. But it's sunscreen. We do have a list. Sunscreen, tick control.
And actually your phone too.
Telephone, yep.
Yeah.
Making people aware of where you are. Stay hydrated, which is where the Castle Island thing comes from. And we didn't mention Trillium, but Trillium is one of our other goals, as it can, right? Percival, but we've actually met there a few times as well.
Meetings.
We to a certain extent, we over-meet, and that's not a word, but I just created it. But every meeting, every time we get together, it's like I look at my watch, and not because I'm talking, but it's like 8:45, and we've been at it for an hour and 45 minutes. And there's so much that we could do. Our biggest issue is we need to focus and we need to prioritize, because there is so much to do. It's all good stuff. We just need to prioritize it, and that's where you all come in to play. Is if you came to us and said, this park would be great if, or it's good today, but with a little bit of a tweak, it's going to be that much better. So we need your help.
I would like to say that I'm from New Mexico, and I have had to concede that Yankees are tougher than we Cal people are. Because you all get out there in any weather. If back home we have 2 inches of snow. Everybody stays home. And out here, I can walk through snow banks this tall, you know. Some winters, we're not having a winter this year, but when we do have a winter. You're amazing. I'm sure you'll use these trails all year long.
Yeah, we will. I love it in the winter.
But I wonder if, just in case some of us don't understand the expression, you would define what passive recreation is?
No motorbikes, no motor vehicles.
Structural.
I missed the question.
Oh, you're gonna answer?
No, I missed the question.
You weren't listening?
Passive recreation, just what is that?
Yeah, so no motor vehicles, on foot, mountain bikes are okay, and
No structure.
yeah, no structure, no, just get out there and don't impact the environment in a negative way.
Okay.
It
Okay,
is-
that's good to have clear because I wasn't entirely sure. You know, I'd always thought of passive entertainment as watching a boob tube or something.
That's really passive.
Anybody have
That's
any
very
questions
passive.
other than Susan?
Actually, sorry,
Hold on.
sorry to do this.
Oh,
Just-
yes.
Just one thing. Susan, could you come join us for 1 second? Oh, sure. Before we get into questions, and as I said, feedback is important for us. We really wanted to make this like a 2-minute presentation and a 2-hour Q&A, but that failed
It's a
miserably.
little late for that.
But, you're welcome, right? But we did want to thank Susan on behalf of the Together Yes group and Progress Norwood. Most of you all have shirts already because you're also on our committee. But we did want to present Susan in appreciation with her own, it's definitely not your size.
But I layer up.
You layer up, good. So get out there in that tender degree.
I just want to give a quick thank you, and these 2 gentlemen walked 3 point. Oh, you two,
From, you know the Getz Trail?
Yeah,
I walked the
all the
Getz
way from
Trail.
Walpole to come
I
to
live on
here.
Granite Street.
Did you?
I walked
Really?
to Getz
Wow.
Trail to Bill's house and then.
Oh.
Then we walk from there.
Yeah, so they walked from Walpole to come to the meeting.
So it's
Yeah.
doable.
And you didn't even need a passport to press. I just wanted to show you the back one.
Oh, wonderful, sure.
Just show you the back of it. So the whole take a hike, take a hike. We want everybody to take a hike, but primarily it's nothing personal. But take a hike in Norwood because we don't want people leaving town, and I'm sure the same is true. I'm sure the same is true for Walpole. We both towns have great resources. They're as they say in golf, it's ground under repair because they're being developed. But we want people to enjoy that nearby nature that I talked about first.
So, Mass Trails has a site, have you gone to that?
Yeah.
I looked at it in Walpole, and it's surprising what's on that site.
Yeah.
They have how do trails get registered on that site?
I don't know, I haven't personally registered our trails on that
I
side.
went
Because
and
we
looked,
made one
I
that's on
made
the site.
one from the Getz Trail all on Power Line,
Mhm.
it was remarkably there.
Okay.
I didn't know anybody knew about it.
Okay.
It was on the Mass
All right,
Trails
I'll
site.
check it out.
Try to check it, you might see if your trails are on the Mass Trails. It's an interactive site, you pick any town, and you can zoom in, and you'll see all these lines. You'll see the trails, it's amazing.
That question, can everybody, just for future reference, can everybody hear these questions?
Yeah.
You okay? Good, thank you. The one thing that, like, kind of, it always ticked me off, as my dad used to say, but it spurred us into action, because if you look at any one of those maps, the MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, is another one. They have great resources, they show Eastern Mass, and if you Google Eastern Mass trails, there's a conspicuous empty spot where Norwood is.
Oh, they're not on?
Where we were not on. But we're slowly but surely with Mass Trails especially, we're trying to get Google Maps is another one, and you can register.
Google Maps, we have the trails?
Yeah, right, yeah, right.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So you can register, we do need to go through that exercise in registering. But it's a great place, and we want to try to advertise it. We want the trails to be ready for action before we do that, because we still feel that we need to dot some I's and cross some T's. But thank you.
And there's a
thanks
lot
for
of
coming.
apps that are available that you can trace your walk when you're walking the trail and find out exactly, so if you're lost, you just have to look at your phone and say, oh, that's right. have to go back.
There is a really good one, and it's free. All Trails, it's called.
Yeah.
You can use that, and that if you just say, show me a trail moderate in Walpole, and it'll come up with surrounding areas and
And
surrounding.
it's a website.
It's, if you just Google All Trails.
Alltrails.com.
it's all one
Alltrails.
word. Yeah. Any more questions? Question?
I had the last presentation I saw by you guys was done for the Norwood Historical Society, and I was wondering if you could talk about any collaboration coming up having to do with the trails and the history of Norwood.
Excellent. Marguerite, can I take you out of the audience? Marguerite is one of our members, but she's also on the Historical Society.
We've been talking about trails. Norwood Historical has led walks around town in various areas, giving a historical perspective on where these sites are and what they meant for the history of the town. What we're working on, although it's sort of a back burner project at this point, because we want to get this stuff going first, what we're working on is trying to define more of these historical trails, connect them with the trails like the Indian trails, and give a context, not just for the existence of the trail, but what it meant to be here 100 years ago. So that's a long-term project for both the Trails Committee and for the Norwood Historical Society. If you want to volunteer for either one, we'd be happy to take your name.
And we have the big cheese from the Norwood Historical
Well,
Society
just to
sitting
follow
right
up,
in the audience.
For those who don't know me, Cashman Prince, I'm the current president of the Norwood Historical Society, for all of my many sins, as Vic well knows. But to follow on what Marguerite is saying, the neighborhood walking tours have been a great success. We'll have another one this June. We're in the planning phase for that right now. It'll be towards the end of the month with the rain date, which we've learned from past experiences a necessity. And we're talking especially about a lot of these history trails with the goal of having a lot of this in place for the 150th celebration of Norwood in 2022. So we're sort of starting to plan and work towards that as a goal. But we welcome your ideas. You can go to norwoodhistoricalsociety.org is our website, or get a hold of us. Happy to talk to you about it.
And these walks, I did one of them last year or the year before, and it was amazing. I thought I knew, I'm a townie, I thought I knew everything about this town. I knew so little about the town but after that walk, I knew a lot more. And that's part of the trail thing, walking through town even. And like, you don't have to always be on a trail to take a trail. The big trail, the circuit trail, goes on streets every now and then. So, it's not a detriment that you have to walk a quarter of a mile on the street to connect to another trail.
Do you have any other questions, Marguerite?
I was just going to say, even the Appalachian Trail, from time to time, as you're walking on the street.
Yeah.
One other thing that a couple of us attended, speaking of Appalachian Trail, but last weekend, 2 weekends ago, the Appalachian Mountain Club had what they call their annual summit. And people come from Maryland and South Carolina and Maine and all up and down the East Coast. And that's really where they strategize for it's essentially the management of the AMC. And that's where they put together their next year's plan. And they have interactive sessions all day long. And lo and behold, that was in the last 3 years, it's been in Norwood. So all roads lead to Norwood. Sorry. But that's the kind of thing that.
And Walpole.
And Walpole. And then, questions, comments, volunteerism, anything?
One thing I say is there's some towns put up a map on their website, so you can call it download it. It's a self-guided tour. So if you have this tour and someone document it, you can put it up on the website, and an individual could do it on their own and do a description of every place you stop.
Yeah.
And Ashland does that. If you look at Ashland, they have a self-guided tour.
Nice.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like a volunteer.
Yeah.
He's a Walpole guy.
That's what I mean.
Does it help?
A lot of history in Walpole too.
All of these ideas are great ideas. We just need to, we need to walk before we run. But they're all Wellesley does the same thing. They do they're self-guided. They have actually. I found a book in the library in Wellesley, and there's probably 40 to 50 pages of Each page is a different trail in Wellesley. Each page is written by an individual. But that person basically, this is one of the other things that we will get into. We want to get into an adopted trail concept where some neighbor, you don't have to get up there with your bushwhacker or your chainsaw or whatever, but if you frequent a trail, then we would like to ask you to own that trail essentially, to give us that feedback. But the point of being able to write up something so that one of your neighbors might not even know the trail exists. We all own these trails. Actually, nobody owns these trails. We all share these trails. Might be a better way to do it. Any other questions, comments?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.